Hi everybody, welcome to the Formula 1 Fallout. After the Bahrain Grand Prix, the first round of the 2022 season, and what a race! What a race, what a way to start a new season, a new era of Formula 1. I thought it was a brilliant race, fantastically entertaining, some great battles throughout the whole field, and a really encouraging start to this era that we've been so excited to see in Formula 1 for so many years. I think there's a lot of promise going forward ahead that we've seen from here. Of course, it ended with a 1-2 for Ferrari, starting the season very strong. Charles Leclerc beating out Carlos Sainz, with Red Bull hitting huge problems towards the end, both cars ending up retiring and Mercedes picking up the pieces with third and fourth. On the F1 Fallout, I'm hoping to do one after every single race, and we're going to reflect back on the big talking points from what we saw. And yeah, let's get started. So of course the big one is that Ferrari coming out with a 1-2, their first since Singapore 2019, their first win since Singapore 2019, and completely fully deserved it. Red Bull came in as the favourites after a really impressive last day of testing in Bahrain. But Charles Leclerc getting that pole position on Saturday, it shows that they do have the speed in that car and they really can take the fight to Red Bull just on pure pace. I think Charles looked a lot happier than Carlos. Carlos said that he was struggling a little bit. Managed to grab back a bit of it during qualifying. Kind of fell away a little bit in the race, but in the end came home second after the misfortune, shall we say, that struck Max Verstappen. But if this is the pace that Sainz is showing when he's struggling, and he's still up there and fighting for podiums, you know, when he does get in tune with that car and gets a setup that he's happy with, and is maybe at tracks that he's a little bit stronger at, he is going to be right up there fighting at the front with Charles. So that's really encouraging to see for Ferrari. Going into the race, Leclerc and Verstappen, it looked as though that Charles had the pace and had the measure of Verstappen really throughout. Even in the early stages when Max wasn't having the steering issues, Leclerc was able to pull away until we got to the first round of pit stops when Max was able to close up a lot and then ensured one of the best battles I've seen in Formula 1 for a very, very long time. Seeing Verstappen diving into turn 1, Leclerc getting him back, and seeing how the cars were able to keep a lot closer together, really encouraging and just what Formula 1 would have wanted to see. There was so much concern, I think, during the times where cars were following closely in testing, that it's not actually that much easier to follow each other. But I think we saw a lot of evidence, not just with Leclerc and Verstappen, but throughout the field. There were lots of battles going on, a lot of action happening, and a really encouraging start to this era of car, this design of car, and hopefully a great sign of what's to come in the future. If we get more races like that, then yeah, be very happy with how the season goes. But yeah, it's a very strong race from Ferrari. Carlos Sainz, who was pretty comfortably P3 until the Red Bull blow-up, gifting him P2. But a real statement of intent from the Scuderia for the start of the season. Moving on to Red Bull, who, I mean, was looking so promising, and then both of them in such a short space of time, falling foul of what seemed like the same issue, a fuel pump issue, proving the one that cost them. Both of them, Verstappen and Perez, losing power before they just kind of conked out, and Perez, just as he was going through turn 1 and becoming a bit of a human roadblock. What's interesting is that the fuel pump is actually a mandated part by the FIA. It's not something that all the teams designed themselves. This is something that's effectively given to them. It's designed by and built by a third party, an Italian company, and all given to them. So it's going to raise a lot of concerns about, whether it's something to do with the design of the Red Bull engine. Is that something that factors in? Because for it to happen to just the Red Bull cars and in such a short space of time, it's something that's really going to concern them. But it wasn't just the fuel pump, Verstappen steering as well. Apparently after one of his pit stops, it kind of sort of locked in and became really heavy and difficult to steer. So reliability really played Red Bull throughout this whole weekend, and they're going to be looking to make sure they get some quick fixes in before Saudi Arabia in just 1 week's time. But apart from that, they did look really, really quick and were right up there with Ferrari on pure pace. Maybe a little bit slower than what we were all thinking. They looked really strong in testing, really strong in practice. And if it's going to be that close for the whole season, it's going to be a really, really good one to watch. Mercedes, of course, very lucky with a double Red Bull DNF. It gives Hamilton the podium and George Russell a 4th place on his Mercedes debut. But they got themselves into that position in 5th and 6th, and kudos to them for taking their chances. For all the doom and gloom that they've had over the weekend, and Russell qualifying in 9th and them looking quite a bit away from Red Bull and Ferrari, to be pretty comfortably the 3rd quickest car, as we saw throughout the race in Bahrain, and then picking up 27 points in a podium in comparison to Red Bull's 0, it's a pretty good place to be whilst they're not as competitive as they want to be. It looks as though their problems are here and going to be here for a few races maybe. Maybe the European season is when they'll be able to really hit the front and have got on top of those problems. But whilst they aren't competitive at this current time, they have to maximise these opportunities in order to keep in touch with the likes of Ferrari and Red Bull at the front. But if not the quickest weekend for Mercedes, a hugely encouraging one for them. Next up, Haas. Kevin Magnussen, P5. What a story that is. It wasn't in the car. It wasn't announced as a Haas driver even before the Bahrain test. And to get 5th in his first race in Formula 1 in 14 months, it was such an impressive showing from him. A really good comeback after falling back a little bit earlier in the race. And it shows that Haas have really taken a huge step forward. Mick Schumacher coming in 11th, really close to his first points in Formula 1. And a great weekend from Haas. And after everything they've been through in the last few weeks, let alone 18 months to 2 years, I don't think anybody can say that they don't deserve it. A really great showing from them and really encouraging signs for them for the future, and shows that they really do have a competitive car. Great showing from them. And Alfa Romeo as well. Valtteri Bottas getting a P6. I mean, a very up and down race for him. Qualified P6 and then completely fell away. Was P14 after the opening lap. But a great comeback drive from him, of course benefiting from the double Red Bull retirement. Coming home P6, great points for them. And Zhou Guan Yu as well, coming home 10th, getting a point on his debut. He looks so delighted from him. You could only be happy for him. A great weekend for Alfa Romeo. A great weekend for both Haas and Alfa, in fact. A good show of what they've done over the winter, taking a really big step forward. And it looks as though they can get themselves in the mix for some of those higher points positions. A great weekend from them. It was also a good showing from Alpine, P7 for Ocon, P9 for Alonso. And also Tsunoda points in P8 as well. A good start to the season from him. I think he needed that. Finish last season very strongly. Hopefully he can take that form forward into the next few races. Looking a bit further down the finishing order, we have McLaren. And it does look as though they do have some big problems on them. It's really disappointing considering such early promise from them in the Barcelona test. It was expected to be a very difficult weekend for them. They were plagued by issues in the Bahrain test with the brakes. Daniel Ricciardo recovering from COVID, as well as the brake problems they had in the final test in Bahrain. It was expected to be a very difficult weekend for them, and it proved so to be. They seemingly found a fix for the brake problems, but it was to the detriment of the aerodynamics of the car, and they just didn't look competitive all weekend. Hopefully they can get on top of those issues and they can find some form pretty quickly. But yeah, difficult weekend for McLaren. Same thing really goes for Aston Martin. Seemed to really lack a lot of pace going out in Q1 with both cars. Hülkenberg out qualifying Stroll. Stroll did well to recover it a bit more in the race, but kind of similar to McLaren. Nothing really too much to shout about coming out of the first round. However, down at Williams, I thought Albon was very impressive. Getting out of Q1 with that car, I thought was a really good achievement from him. And showed some pretty good pace, beating both McLarens, even if Latifi was behind them, although he did beat Hülkenberg in the end. Let me know what you think in the comments below about the first race in Bahrain. Were you pleased with the result? Were you disappointed? I thought it was a really encouraging weekend for Formula 1. Hopefully we'll see more of this going forward. See much more close racing. See them battling out a lot more like we saw in Bahrain. But yeah, a very encouraging start from them. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Please subscribe and like this video. It would mean the world to me if you did. And yeah, hopefully I will see you after Saudi. Thank you so much. Take care. Have a good week. Bye-bye.